All right, this video is to discuss how to unfreeze a frozen tilt-in-space mechanism that's either frozen up due to water residue or something similar. So there's several ways to do it. First, this unit is actually working right now, but let's assume it's stuck. So let's assume it's stuck in a situation that might be at this sort of angle or something, and most likely water had sat in there for a while, water residue set in, it's hard to tilt. So the first thing you want to try and do is use a CLR type cleaner. That helps to break down all the water residue, salts, and so forth. That typically works really well. In addition, you want to use something like a WD-40, and you want to give a little squirt into the mechanism like this. And then same thing on the other side. We have redundant gear mechanisms on both sides. You want to do it on both sides here. Okay, give a couple squirts. And then what you want to do is you want to go ahead and use the tilt mechanism, and you may need to assist it. So the whole idea is you're breaking up whatever that salts and so forth and kind of work it back and forth. Again, with the idea that you get it going, and then you go back and forth a few times. And that typically will free things up. However, let's assume that didn't do the trick. It's still stuck, it's not working any way you want it. The next method is to actually take off the gear handle, or crank handle, and that's done by using a 1/8 inch Allen wrench. So you take the 1/8 Allen wrench and you loosen the screw right here that's holding this crank handle on. And you don't need to take it all the way out, but just basically loosen it. And then you slide out the little knob on the crank handle, and then you wiggle this loose. And if that doesn't come loose right away, you take a small little screwdriver and carefully sort of, work off this guy. Okay? And let's assume again it's stuck here. That comes off. So I'm gonna assume it's stuck, okay? It's totally stuck. You take your WD-40 or similar, you squirt in the mechanism like we just showed. Again, it's stuck, and you actually forcibly try and crank this thing back and forth, okay? You break up the residue, and once you do, it should actually free flow. It should go back and forth, but this might take a little force. You might even need to take a little rubber mallet and pop it, but just to break that up. But once you break it up, run this back and forth, let's say, 25 to 30 times, just to really get that loosened up. Okay, once it's loosened up, it should actually function fine. So what you want to do is get this position back into a flat horizontal seat position. You take the crank handle, you put it on. You want to orient the crank handle such that if you're on the tilt, you're at an angle relative to horizontal, about like this. That way when you're sliding across for the slider system, it functions properly. So that's about the right orientation. You slide that guy on. You might need to tap it a little bit. Actually use a rubber mallet or something would be a better solution, but you loosen up. I might need to loosen this up a little bit more with the Allen wrench, which is right here, and slide it across and make sure that it slides into one of those holes. Once it's locked, then you can crank it back on, and then verify that the crank is working easily. In fact, you can actually sit in the chair and operate the crank handle individually. But taking off that crank handle, putting a little oil in there, and just busting up that water residue really is what's going to help resolve the frozen issue.